You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan and Kaan Bayazit.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Orada Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksiyon kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol. Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Roma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 69 of Beşiktaş International's The Black Eagles podcast. And of course, this one would be 69. When else could it occur? With me today is not Kaan Bayazit of Belgium, but is, in fact, Evran Akman. So I'm not going solo here. Everybody, welcome back, Evran Akman. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. Not gonna spoil the game in case you didn't watch it, but I think you should know what has happened by now. So.
Yeah, we're coming in a little late. Part, that's because Evran is in exam season. The young man in school. Got to give it up for him. Also, the other reason is that Kaan he was like away for the weekend with family, and then today he did the football Turca podcast. So definitely they got the first word in, I think, for the first time ever since they started running. So you guys, if you needed your fill and you couldn't wait around for us, you may have already listened to them. But yes, this is in fact the big Derby podcast, following up on the match away in the Türk Telekom Arena against Galatasaray. And shall we just jump in? You ready to go, Evran?
Ready to go.
Real quick, Evran, do this publicly for everyone. I always say you're somewhere near the border of, Canada and the U.S. Where are you exactly, sir? Oh, are you in Oneonta?
Exactly? No, I'm like straight up from the city. If you drew a line from New York City just straight up to the top to Canada, I would be near the top right there.
What's it called?
Canton. That is where I am.
Canton.
Yeah.
I've seen signs for Canton. I went to school up there. I feel like when I was driving around up there in my old days, it sounds familiar. Okay, Canton, New York, for anyone who needs to know. But yeah, so both of us coming in from New York State, though, which is a large state for those who don't know. Probably would be not in the States. Most of our listeners are in the States. You might not know that, Evran. Anyway.
Interesting.
Let's do this, man. So let's talk about the lineup. First of all, starting in the goal was Loris Karius. On the back line of the defense, we saw Miran and Vida. And on the right side of the defense, we had Gökhan Gönül with Caner Erkin on the left. Atiba Hutchinson, Dorukhan Tokuz, and Necip Uysal all started in the back of the midfield. Adem Ljajic started on the left side with Jermaine Lens on the right side and Burak Yilmaz up front. So that was how we were rolling out. Usually we don't talk about the opposition's formation, but we might as well do it today since you guys will know a lot of these guys, being that this is a big rival. Galatasaray put out Muslera in their goal, Lian Dama and Marcao on their back line with Nagatomo on the left side of their defense and Mariano on the right. Donk played as their sort of defensive midfielder, Belhanda and Fernandao in the middle of their midfield, Onyekuru on the left side, Feguli on the right, and Diagne up front. Evran, say something about that lineup.
Well, the Beşiktaş lineup was, I think, drew a lot of attention when we saw good old Necip in there.
Oh yeah, that was a surprise.
It was clear what the intentions were. I think of all the predicted lineups, we saw Quaresma, we saw Caner, we saw Lens, we saw Kagawa, we saw all these guys, but we did not see Necip.
Nobody saw.
Shows how much they knew because there came Necip trying out of the tunnel.
It also
with the
speaks to
captain's
the
armband,
infinite
but,
wisdom of Shinel Gunesh, perhaps, right?
But yeah, so it was clearly a defensive lineup. With Dorukan as a quote unquote 10, but it was more of just 3 center mids or 2 defensive mids and a center mid, not even an attacking mid, and then Lens and Lajic out wide. But it was a questionable lineup,
It's
to say
interesting.
the least.
Google has it posted as like a flat back line with the 3 of them. Usually they're totally inaccurate and kind of creative with their interpretations, but they didn't know what to do with that lineup either, I guess. But yeah, anything to say about Galatasaray's lineup? I mean, not anything too surprising.
They showed up with 11 foreigners. I think the only surprise was that Badu Ndiaye wasn't starting, who's probably one of their strongest players. He's currently on loan after they sold him, and they went for a more solid player in Donk. So it was 2 very defensive center of the parks, because usually Fernando is the more defensive midfielder, but now he had a more defensive midfielder with him. So it was interesting.
Yeah, they've been creative with Dunk all year. They even played him up front in Europe, I think. So they've been going crazy with Dunk. That guy's name, it's still funny for me to say. It's sort of childish, I guess, but it is what it is. Dunk. Anyway, let's get into proceedings, I suppose. So the match kicked off. I guess we should probably mention the name of the referee. Evran, who refed this match? Do you recall?
It was Bülent Yıldırım. Yeah, I don't remember who refed this game. Yeah.
Mr. Yıldırım. So yeah, Bülent Yıldırım was the ref for this match in the Türk Telekom Arena with, I think again, Cüneyt Çakır was in the VAR room. Interesting. 2 weeks in a row that hasn't worked out so well for us. The game got going. It was, I think, honestly, going in favor of Galatasaray right from the outset. The first 20 minutes were not so nice. Then it capped off with Jermaine Lens getting a yellow card in the 19th.
That was a joke of a card, by the way.
A ridiculous card.
He was the one who got fouled, and then he got a yellow card. So
yeah, there was a bunch of that. There was a bunch of that.
Yeah.
Of note, I think Onyekuru had 2 chances. Only one of them was sort of really legit. Karius was strong early on. I think that would actually sort of be a theme throughout the match, if we're going to be honest. You know, he was okay. Certainly didn't play any role in anything that would happen negatively, which I won't spoil. In the 37th minute, Caner Erkin would get himself a yellow card.
Another joke of a yellow card, considering he didn't actually touch anybody, but doesn't matter.
There was actually no contact, and the replay showed it, and I think even Bien was like, "Oh, whoa." Well, let's not focus on this, because this is a clear injustice that's going to get people angry. But it was that. But yeah, he got himself a yellow for that. In the 38th minute, Domagoj Vida would get himself a yellow card. That one was maybe earned.
Yeah, probably.
In the 42nd minute, Belhanda would get himself a yellow card. It should have been his second, actually. He had a nasty foul earlier on that was not judged as harshly as I would have judged it.
It was judged as a dive by Burak, actually.
Yeah.
He didn't even give a foul.
And it was ridiculous, because it was actually, I thought, a yellow card offense.
He got stepped on his like the back of his heel, but
yeah, and
the referee thought it was a dive.
There was a later
he didn't think
yellow
it was a dive
card.
Several years back, but
there was a later yellow card that made this particular non-call, not even yellow card, look even more ridiculous. But again, don't want to spoil it. Kagawa. But anyway, in the 44th minute, shortly after that card was given, a ball would go through the legs of Caner Erkin. The referee would say it was touched by him. I don't think it was. Replays were somewhat inconclusive, and because they had judged it Galatasaray ball, I guess, rather than overturning it, maybe they decided there wasn't anything conclusive there. That one was perhaps debatable, but anyway, the throw-in would quickly go to Galatasaray. Beşiktaş seemed stunned. Half of them were literally slowly walking in the other direction, assuming they were going to be getting the throw-in. Fernando would find Henry Onyekuru, who would score in the 44th minute, giving Galatasaray a 1-0 lead. And so, Evran, this will be your first color commentary of the day.
Yeah, a very weird goal. So as the Gala picks up the throw-in, it's very clear that the Beşiktaş team is not playing at all. Atiba's the one closest to the ball. No one really looks aware of what's going on. Gala throws the ball in, and you still see a couple Beşiktaş players like unsure if the game's actually going on, gesturing towards the referee. Gala doesn't care. At this point, it's only two players, just Vida and one other defender playing. Gala counters, plays in Fernando, and then the whole Beşiktaş team obviously starts to react because they're about to concede. Fernando squares it for Onyekuru, who scores a tap-in past Karius. That's 1-0.
Yeah, nothing Karius could do.
And then the whole Beşiktaş team swarms the referee.
Yeah, and
literally the whole team.
I actually thought because of the nature of how they were going about it, because they were sort of pleading for a VAR check, and sort of it looked like they were going to protest and like not restart the match, which was interesting. But sure enough, they did. Although before restarting the match, and already the clock had run into the 46th and 47th minutes. This is before the ball has even been re-kicked. Gökhan Gönül gets a yellow card for throwing the ball. Adem Ljajic gets a yellow card for kicking the ball into the stands. This was a rough patch, I guess we could say. But that would be it going into the half. Beşiktaş would not. I mean, they were so shell-shocked. It was probably better for Beşiktaş if they went into the half quickly, because they could have conceded. I think, given how in disarray they were. But anyway, yeah, halftime would be 1-0 Galatasaray. Second half would start. Still, I don't think Beşiktaş was bringing quite the energy that they needed, but they were definitely looking better. In the 54th minute, Gökhan Gönül would come out injured. I don't know if we know anything about that injury. Is it?
Not that I know of. He limped off, and he went down, kept playing, and then limped off.
Yeah, so I don't imagine it'll be a long-term thing. Obviously, if we have any hope going forward, we're going to need him healthy.
It's not too many games left.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And he's been.
Who knows how long?
It needs to be said, he's been one of our best players in the last few weeks. So that was not good.
Probably the whole season.
Maybe so, yeah. He might be an MVP candidate if we're going to be.
Especially when we had that dark period, he was usually one of the main players still.
Yeah.
Putting out decent performances.
Yeah, really solid all season. So that's a blow, obviously, in a derby match against a big team. And somehow, in the 54th minute also, I don't know if this sub actually happened after this, but a goal was scored. And this one, no, it actually happened, of course, at the same minute. I don't know exactly how
as Adriano steps on the field.
So this one, I'll just quickly say, was scored by Fernando, and somehow there's no assist credited to it. How could that be, Evran? Explain this to us.
I'll explain the whole goal. So as Gökhan limps off the field, Adriano takes a brisk run. Definitely not a walk. He's not sprinting, but he's running. So about 2 steps after he enters
and
the
again,
field,
let's be clear,
Beşiktaş
is losing 1-0 at this stage. So why would they be wasting time?
So
right? You're not going to be.
He's running on, but so he has to enter at the half line, and then on the far side of the field, Galatasaray has a throw-in. So currently, as he's entering, they're reshuffling the defense because you have Necip at left back, you have Adriano coming on, so they want to shift it around. As Adriano takes 2 steps on the field, the referee says it's time to play. So Beşiktaş only has 2 defenders. Obviously, no one on Beşiktaş expected the referee to say play because it's not like a written rule. Technically, the substitution is completed once the substitute enters, but the referee, not 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10 will allow the substitute to get on, especially if he's a defender. But this was not the case. Gallo throws the ball in. you see several Beşiktaş players gesturing towards the referee like, what is going on, not playing at all. Gala plays a ball through the whole team. Still almost no one's playing, except Vida again, because he's the last one. Fernando gets through on goal with almost no trouble. Shoots it on Karius. Karius saves it. Unfortunately spills it too far from his grasp, and Fernando gets to the rebound and scores. So for our second time, we were not playing off a throw-in, and we concede.
Who went the other rim, scores again.
Yeah.
Or I guess maybe for the first time, if we're going to be 100% honest. Like, this one was definitely clearly the more egregious one. What adds kind of insult to injury here is that with Adriano coming in, Şenol Güneş got a little bit weirdly creative, and instead of just putting him in at the right back where Gökhan Gönül was, he actually moves Necip to right back. And I think, does Adriano then play in the center of the...
Left back.
So Adriano moves to left back, and then Caner moves up. And that's what slides Ljajic into the 10 slot, which is where he belonged. But so, with all of that action, the team is in particular disarray, obviously, because it's not just a matter of getting Adriano back onto the pitch. It's also all the other guys shifting into their positions. So it's a particularly chaotic moment where he allows them to just play on. And of course, Beşiktaş is stunned and not at all prepared. And so that's it. In the 54th minute, Galatasaray is leading 2-0. In the 57th minute, Caner Erkin comes out for Ricardo Quaresma. Obviously because they needed a talent injection via Quaresma, but I think also as a sort of low-key punishment for Caner, who had been playing pretty poorly, honestly. In a standout way, I think we could say. Everyone played pretty poorly, if we're going to be honest. In the 75th minute, Dorukhan Tukuz would come out. He also, I thought, had a pretty poor game. Shinji Kagawa came on for him. And so the Shinji watch begins. In the 81st minute, an interesting sub, Selçuk Inan came on for Ryan Dunk. So it's weird that they're up 2 here and bring in a more offensive option to the center of the midfield. Terim, though, everything is something, or whatever he said. In the 82nd minute, Onyekuru, we get a yellow card. In the 91st minute, Emre Akbaba would come in for Feguli. In the 93rd minute, Shinji Kagawa would get a yellow card. And here I bring us back briefly to a non-call where Belhanda, who should have gotten his first of 2 yellow cards and been out of the game when he got the second, was not called for a very egregious tackle on the back of Burak Yılmaz's foot, which they somehow just assumed was a dive and didn't call. Shinji Kagawa very meekly touched, I don't remember whose foot it was, and got a yellow card. So right there is a very clear-cut example of poor refereeing that went in Galatasaray's favor, suspiciously. And already 2 down, like, come on, man, insult to injury. It's like rubbing salt in the wounds at that point. 95th minute, Martin Linis, I don't even know how to pronounce that, comes in for Onyekuru. Perhaps that's the real salt in the wounds moment, because I don't know if you're aware, but Linis was actually what introduced him into the sort of worldview of Turkish football teams was Beşiktaş's interest for a couple of years.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
For a couple of years, we were looking at him as our guy. And imagine how nice it would be to have him as the heir apparent for Gökhan Gönül right now, So a little bit more like salt in the wounds from Galatasaray to remind us of the guy that they stole from us and that I'm not even using despite his actually solid play for them all year. And yeah, that's how it would end. 99 minutes of football in the end. Galatasaray victorious 2-0. So Kaan gave us like 15 to 20 minutes of after the beef footage here. So for the sake of brevity, you know what? Before I even ask you for analysis, let me ask you to do the stat flash for us, Evran. And in doing it, just do the tabletop stats, the basic ones: shots on target, possession, passes, accuracy, the stuff you'd get off anything. But if you will, I know you've got some fancy tools at your disposal as well. So nerd out for us on stats.
Our basic stats here, courtesy of FOTMob. That's my source currently. So if it's wrong, don't blame me. Blame FOTMob. Beşiktaş overall in the game had 54% possession.
I have 55.
And they took 13 total shots, while Gala had 16 total shots. Gala created 5 big chances, while Beşiktaş only created 1. But obviously, 2 of those chances were when we weren't playing. Accurate passes, Beşiktaş looks at 258 with a 74% pass accuracy. And Gala is 48 passes less at 210, and it's slightly less accurate, 71%. We had 3 corners compared to their 5, and we committed a few more fouls, but it was overall, pretty feisty game.
14.
Another interesting stat is shots inside the box, where we had 9. They had 4. They had 12 shots inside the box, so they had a little more chances inside the box than we did. But obviously, 2 of those or 3 of those shots were from the throw-ins. So if you subtract those throw-ins, is their edge kind of is diminished. But
at least one of them.
So now we'll go to
one other note that you didn't mention, and that's probably worth noting, is that Beşiktaş was awarded 6 yellow cards to Galatasaray's 2.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
So now that was the nerd flash. So we're gonna be looking into expected goals, courtesy of Twitter page I like very much, called 11Tegan11. That is their @ and their name. So let me find this. Okay, so the expected goal total for Galatasaray today, which expected goals, in case you never heard of, is it's a statistics where they compiled all this data from previous games in history, saying what is the likelihood of a shot from a certain position to go in. So, and they compile every single shot, and then that's your total expected goals based on averages. So on an average day, Gala would have expected to score 1.95 goals, which is basically 2, and they did score 2. However, of course, the throw-ins are counted in there. And their biggest chance was Onyekuru's first goal when we weren't playing. And their third biggest chance was when we also weren't playing on their actual goal for Fernando. So our expected goals was not very high. It was only 0.94. However, our expected goals was 0 entering into the 45th minute.
Terrible first half.
So we actually had a quite decent second half. It was just we never really had the chance to get going because the wind was taken out of our sails in the 54th minute or whenever they scored the second goal.
Yeah, 54 exactly.
But according to there's another nerdy stat just to see who was our most effective players, and it's called the XG chain. So for every time you take a shot, it counts all the passes that happen before it. So whoever makes the most passes that contribute to the most chances created, if that makes sense, gets a good number. So for our team, Adem Ljajic had the highest XG chain, so his passes contributed to the most chances created on the team. And in second, which is actually quite surprising, Jermaine Lens.
For you.
And then, usually his key passes are not really up there, but he actually was pretty decent. And then in third was Atiba Hutchinson. So that's about it for my nerd freak out.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, I mean, interesting stats there. I think if we're gonna analyze them, the first thing that stands out is that we had led in possession and had more passes completed than them, and that's
I think that was largely in the second half.
Of course, yeah, because that first half was terrible. I'm very curious to know what the stats would have been at halftime, especially regarding possession. But yeah, I mean, again, right, Beşiktaş has been at their strongest, we've said for a long time, when they're playing kind of smarter, shrewder, more counter-attacking football. And so when you're down, you can't do that. So clearly this wasn't the style that we've, that we're best at. Still, though, not a bad second half. I think I can't really remember any distinct chances that
Muslera made 2 big saves.
Yeah, Barak. There's the one Barak shot. I mean, it wasn't.
And then one on Ljajic.
The shot was
one good save on Ljajic and one good save on Barak.
What was good about the shot was the unexpected nature of it. It kind of went between the guy's legs, but it was kind of close to Muslera, so he didn't You don't have to reach much for it.
I mean, it actually went past Muslera. He actually had to reach
Yeah,
back.
but
for it.
like,
So if it was a little harder, it definitely would have gone in.
yeah,
but
or a little better placed.
didn't have enough mustard
Yeah,
or placement.
But
you know?
but to be fair, it's like between someone's legs, so it's fairly well defended.
Yeah.
I think that, that even if we want to be really mad at the refs, and we can be, we should be. Mr. Yildirim is not a good man.
Big oof. Yeah.
But even despite that, we have to say that this was not a good match on the pitch either. And I think, all right, you know what? Before we even talk about why, let's quickly talk about the end game here, to borrow from Avengers lore language. But the end result of this, and the one benefit of doing this episode late, is that we can actually look at the standings for the whole week. It's all been played out. But so yeah, Galatasaray is now in first place, tied on points with Başakşehir. They have the advantage on goals and head-to-head. Beşiktaş is now 4 points behind both of them, so they have 63 points. Beşiktaş has 59, and Trabzon was victorious yesterday. They won 4-2 against Kayserispor. Probably expected, if we're going to be honest. They were at home. But so now they're only 3 points back on us at 56 points. So they are putting heat on us from behind. We're now 4 points back on Galatasaray and Başakşehir. So, I mean, you've got to say, things aren't looking good.
Yeah. I mean, if we won, obviously things would be good because we'd only be 1 point behind first place.
Yeah.
But at this point, the season is not. You might hear someone later say the season's over. However, it is worth noting that Gala and Başakşehir has to play each other, so someone has to drop points.
But even then,
that's how it works.
Points on another occasion as well.
So if they do manage to drop points in one of their other two games, which is not the most unreasonable thing, the way Başakşehir has been playing.
Today, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, it is still possible. It's still technically possible, probably, to win the title, but I would not bet any money on that. But second place is not completely out of the cards as long as we win our remaining 3 games. Also, now fourth place is not out of the cards. Also, as we play Trabzon, so if Trabzon wins the rest of their games, they could finish ahead of us, and we could get fourth place.
Their match against us becomes that much more important. Well, so let's talk a little bit about what this weekend means for everyone. I like to save this for the end, but why today? Nothing matters anymore. But no, so Rizespor is hosting Galatasaray this weekend, and that's actually, Rize's not a bad team. Although just given everything, it seems like the refs want Galatasaray to be doing well, so I don't even want to hope for anything there. But so yeah, Saturday, for those of us here on the eastern coast of the United States, that's actually a 9 a.m. match, which sucks. But so yeah, May 11th, they're going to be playing against Rize. Başakşehir is going to be hosting Ankaragücü on Sunday at noon. Also, Ankaragücü has heated up, for the second half of the season. That is more real. I think we could actually anticipate something coming from that one on Sunday at noon here on the east coast of the United States. And then Beşiktaş will be hosting Alanyaspor on Monday. So we have the Monday match. Doesn't matter to you,
again,
Evran. You're done with your classes now and your exams. So who cares? And actually, Monday's a day off for me too, so it's all good. But there it is. This is a big weekend. Things can happen. The best case scenario, obviously, would be Rize and Ankaragücü winning, and Beşiktaş being again like, oh wow, we're 1 point back. It's almost as if we beat Galatasaray. But that's La La Land. That's a fairy tale, and we shouldn't expect that. Obviously, you hope for it, and you put on your good luck socks or whatever the hell.
Barcelona lost 4-0, so
That's right.
Crazier things have happened.
Anything can happen, and literally anything. If Barca can be that outclassed, maybe if Başakşehir can as well.
Yeah, maybe Başakşehir will lose 4-0
Yeah, right.
also.
That's, probably in a vacuum, I think you'd probably put more money on Başakşehir losing to Ankara-Gücü 4-0 than Barca losing to Liverpool. So, you know what? Who knows, right? The best case scenario is still a possibility. It's certainly not an impossibility. But again, I say that with a sigh because, we can't do anything. All we can do is try to beat Alanyaspor as best we can. Alanyaspor, of course, is coached by Sergen Yalçın, a club favorite who might be hungry to prove that he could be the successor as our coach. So that's dangerous. But yeah, man, that's a big match on Monday, 1 p.m. So here on the eastern coast of the United States, Beşiktaş will host Alanyaspor Monday, May 13th at 1 p.m., which means I believe 6 p.m. for Kaan and wherever he is in Europe, and then I think 7 p.m. in Istanbul. So for those of you following from Turkey,
Might be 8
p.m.
Yeah, I think it's 7 hours for Turkey.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've lost track, man. The whole daylight savings thing.
Yeah, Kaan's usually the one who's the
he
expert
gives us
on
some
these things.
reality on that. I just know that here in New York, we're going to be watching it at 1 p.m., so that's actually not a bad time. You can, I don't know, take your lunch break for those of you who are going to be working on that Monday a little late and then see as much of the game as you can. I've been in that boat before. But anyway, so let's steer the ship back on course here, Evran. Let's talk a little bit about this match. Now, before we talk about individual players, thematically, what can we say about this match in analyzing it?
Well, I think Beşiktaş came out with an interesting approach that we haven't really seen, where it was really more of like a low block, which it was a back four and then 3 midfielders in front, and they were all high.
Have you seen that before this season?
I'm not sure. Maybe my memory's it's not always the greatest at this point, but I don't really remember seeing Beşiktaş play like this too often. Even against Bayern, we never did that against the bigger teams. But we had 3 more energetic midfielders that were holding position, and then when the time came, you would see them try to press either Necip or Dorukhan, and then even Lens, although he's on the wing, he's an energetic player. So they're trying to pick their moments, and there was a couple times where we got a bit unlucky. There was one time Atiba won the ball off the last man, which was Fernando, in the box, but he fell as he was running the ball, and then as he tried to stand up, Muslera got on the ball. Another time Necip went in for a tackle, studs up, so the referee called it a foul, but he very clearly won the ball, so that was controversial. But he won it deep in their third, and we went off on the attack. So there was a couple times where our defense that was actually looking pretty decent, and we were winning the ball off like strategic presses. And then Gala started to get more of like an edge on the game. They got a counterattack, which got congested enough to stop Onyekuru from getting a shot off, but it still rebounded off Onyekuru, and Kerry still had to make the save. So that was their biggest chance, according to the XG plot. And then they had another half chance where Onyekuru cut in, but his shot was right at Karius, so it wasn't really anything crazy. So I think if we made it to halftime at 0-0, which we really should have because they scored while we weren't playing, it's a different game. However, I think we still made him. It's hard to say he made a mistake because I think I understand it looking back, it's a complete mistake to play Necip. But I can see there were portions early on where it was working.
All right, now I got to step in here because I totally hated it from the outset.
But we created 0 chances also in the first half. But
but I mean even before the whistle was blown, when I saw the starting lineup, I was furious. And for me, sorry, we hear the FDNY. So you tourists come to New York and buy their hats, but I'll tell you, they're not a podcaster's friend. Anyway, I'm kidding, obviously. Shouts to FDNY. Thanks for saving people's lives or whatever. But anyway, if anyone's out there listening in the FDNY. But back to the match here for a second. I really, I thought the starting lineup was a tragedy insofar as what it signaled as far as the club's intent. And from a strategic position, it's not such a tragedy. It's like, fine, you're trying to contain them and
It was a very
try to spring on the counter.
but
But from a morale perspective, from a psychological perspective, the mentality of the players, I feel like you're not. It's so much more powerful to say, guys, keep doing what you've been doing. Like, you've been so hot, you've been playing with such vigor. Adem Ljajic, like, stay in your position where you've been so effective, like historically effective. I can't remember the numbers, but it's something like 7 goals and 10 assists or something in the second half of the season. Do that. Don't go to the wing. This week, I even said, like, and I love Shinji Kagawa, and I want him to stay, and I think he needs to play so that, because I don't know. Another side note is he's frustrated. He's now vented frustration in his interview post-match this week, which we'll talk about maybe later in our Shinji Watch hashtag. But yeah, even despite my being a fan of Shinji Kagawa, I said, but today we don't tinker, right? We don't want to mess around. Adem Ljajic has been so effective in that little, where am I going with this? In that number 10 slot that, we can't afford to play around there. And so again, as a Kagawa fan, I'm saying that. And so to see him moved out of that slot so that we could fit in a third defensive midfielder again for the first time this season, it's insane to me, because, like, it's not just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, you're breaking it. You're breaking it, because you're taking something that's operating in one way and you're trying to do something entirely different. And it's fine, like, conceptually, if you're going to make a few moves, but you're literally shifting the entire structure of the team and the mentality of the team. And that's honestly asking for a lot more than it is for them to kind of keep playing at the intensity, even though they're playing against a higher quality team than they've been, against Ankara Gücü or whatever. So for me, I thought it was very dispiriting as a fan, and I imagine for some of the more emotional players too, perhaps, the guys who would react to this kind of thing, to say, like, no, pump the brakes on this whole thing. As well as you've been playing, it's not going to work. We're not going to be able to achieve what we've been doing against a side of this quality. And who, like, this Galatasaray side, this season's Galatasaray, we're going to say, are such an immensely talented squad that we're going to play more defensively than we did against Bayern Munich? Against Bayern Munich. Last year's Bayern Munich, not this year's crap side. Like, legitimately good. I mean, that honestly for me was disgraceful. And I said I don't want to bag on Şenol Güneş a lot, so I'm going to kind of leave it there. I'm not going to give him the low light or anything like that. I'd like to focus on players. And Kaan and I've been doing that a lot. But I will say one last thing about this. Danny Pierce, if you're out there, this week, if there was any silver lining, it's that you can't talk shit this week, sir, because Şenol Güneş failed us one last time, and this time it might have been the death blow in the season. And as nice as it was,
there's still possible more failures. So let's not say one.
Yeah, sure enough. And hey, like, we've been talking so much crap that maybe we need to go back to talking crap so that you can start playing well again. Maybe that's what it is. We got
3 games.
Romantic about this whole thing. No, but for me, that needed to be said. That Şenol Güneş had, for me, probably as much blame as the referee in this loss. Maybe not quite as much. Maybe 60-40. But you can't come out like that. You can't come out taking the wind out of your own team's sails. Like, let nature decide that. Let the wind decide what it wants to do with your sails. Don't take your sails down on your own before you even give the guys a chance to come out and do what they've been doing. And again, like, we were playing.
I don't completely agree, if I'm gonna be honest, but
you're allowed to disagree. But I really feel like when you're playing historically well and you have guys individually playing historically well, you don't tinker with that. At least you don't tinker with those guys. Fine, like, try another left back, right? Like, because nothing's really been going that well with John Air back there or whatever. But, like, the number 10, right? Adem Ljajic, he's been the man all year. And if you're gonna take him out, fine, then give Kagawa his shining moment. Because don't forget, right? He scored those 3 goals in 2 minutes, right, in his first appearance, whatever that was. He has that magic in him. So if you're gonna do something inspired. Look at Jurgen Klopp today against Barcelona, right? He said it like if you're gonna go out, but dude, if you think about it, it's the same situation, right? He's coming in. We were coming in at a disadvantage.
Finish the ball, it would be a different story that game. I mean, I don't think it's a fair comparison.
No,
But
this is the comparison I'm trying to make, though, Evran, in that it's do or die, right? We're coming into this match at a disadvantage. We're the ones 4 points back. We're the ones who need to win at all costs. So, in the same way that Jurgen Klopp came into this match saying, if we lose, it's gonna be an entertaining as hell way to lose. But we're not gonna, we're gonna go all in. We're gonna try to play we're not gonna be scared. We're not gonna kind of try to play tactically and on the counter or anything like that. We're gonna go all in and put everything like that's kind of the mentality we needed in coming into this match, because it really was in the same way that they're 3 goals back in the last leg. That's kind of where we are, in that we needed a win. We could, even a draw would probably not have done it for us. So I don't know. I think that we could have had that same, not necessarily desperation, but the same desperation to just like to maintain the energy, the positive traits of our football that we've cultivated in this historic winning streak. So again, that for me, that was a big strike against General Ganesh. Sorry, go ahead, everyone.
all right, so I'm a big idealist, and I think that you should always play. And if I'm the coach, I'm probably throwing out Quaresma out there, and I'm throwing out all attacking players, playing back 3, all guns blazing. However, this team has not been good this year. Even when we were winning, as I said previous episode, that just because we're winning doesn't mean we're playing well. It's just the ball's going in the net.
Well, and that's why I was careful in saying the components that have done well in this run have been individuals, right? Like not the team. But so it's like the individuals that it really pisses me off that you're tinkering with, at the end of the day. But anyway, like even Dorkan, right? Like he's played so well in that sort of faux defensive midfielder, like kind of deep lying role, or not deep
box to box.
Sorry, yeah. That like why tinker with that? And fine, like maybe we were kind of playing him that role anyways. But so then you got the 3 guys in the back line, and
all right. Well, as I was saying, let me get my train of thought back. I think ideally I always want us to attack, but if we get into halftime 0-0, which we probably should have, I'm assuming maybe whatever he does for 10-15 minutes, because he's not going to make subs at halftime. He puts on Quaresma, he puts on Kagawa. If the game is there, because Quaresma comes down at 2-0, which I think is very important. Quaresma is not always the player to come on when it's 2-0. If we're 0-0 and you sub on Quaresma, maybe he doesn't play well. I can't guarantee, but you could see when he came in, he had energy. And I think if it's 0-0 and the whole team had energy, and then you sub in Kagawa, that was the plan. And it kind of worked in a roundabout way. If you ignore the goals, we were compact in the first half, and then he tried to come out in the second half and play sort of like a Mourinho-esque thing, which I would not say it's like a Beşiktaş thing, as our culture. But if you remember previous derbies with Bilic or with whoever, we always came out, we tried to play, and then we would lose on some stupidity. So this time we're like, let's be the smart guys this time. Let's pick our moments and then try to exploit the last 30, 40 minutes, whatever it is, with our more talented players. And then somehow, I don't think you can blame Şenol Güneş for conceding off throw-ins. That's not him. That's the players on the field. That's obviously it's the ref, but it's also the players on the field, because they're used to the referees not being incompetent. At my level, I'm used to the referees being incompetent. So that would never happen, because the referee's just an idiot. But here even the second time, they expected the referee to be smart.
Yeah, right. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't give him all the blame here. I cannot give him all the blame here. He was unlucky. on a few occasions.
I really don't think you can say though that Galatasaray didn't deserve to win this match. I really don't think you can say that. No matter how unlucky we were,
0-0 into the second half.
But we didn't deserve to be going into the match 0-0. Despite yes, the goal was unjust, but we were lucky that they didn't score on at least the one big chance in and of itself.
But their only two huge chances were off the throw-ins. They really only created one chance before, other than those two throw-ins, that was worth a goal. Everything else was equal to what we were creating.
Yes,
maybe a little bit better.
They were the better side, right? You can definitely say that. They were more confident. They were playing their game. They were pressing in our side of the box more. Certainly in the first half. I think you're being way too charitable as far as tactics go, because it's one thing to say yes, the guys will play these guys and they will play in this way, but is it really? Can you really say you're in any way?
If Atiba scores in the 9th minute, what happens to the game?
Okay, but my
if
point
we don't concede in the 42nd, what happens to the game? There was a lot of uncontrollable things.
Okay, but Evran, your whole
went
point that you're making is that he's adding stability to the back line. How in what universe is adding Necip Uysal into any squad a move towards stability? For me,
he covers deep more.
But he's also
Medel would
likely
have
to
probably
get a card.
played, but he's hurt in that position. So instead, he goes for the next defensive midfielder, because there is no other defensive midfielder.
Necip could have gotten a yellow card in the first 5 minutes of this match. Do you remember that foul?
He could have gotten 4 yellow cards in the game.
I mean, my point is that if you don't have the personnel to play a certain way, I don't think that means you don't just go for it anyway because you happen to have another defensive midfielder. He's not the man to add stability to any team ever. That's just never going to be what he can do for a side. He's not a reliable player. He's a hothead. He's sort of physically, something's wrong with him. He can't, he should, his hand-eye coordination seems to have some issues. Whatever it is, the problem I have is that the logic of playing that Mourinho-style formation or tactic or whatever makes sense in a vacuum, but I don't think it makes sense with the personnel at hand, honestly. I don't think Atiba, Dorukhan, and Necip, none of those guys among them can, I guess Atiba can hold the ball fairly well, but he needs support, and he had no one up. There was this huge gap between the midfielder and the midfielders and the wings and forwards because nobody was tracking back. But nobody was playing in that central midfielder role of trying to connect, or in the number 10 role for that matter. So I don't know. If you don't have the personnel, I don't think it's sound policy to just go for something in a vacuum tactically. I don't know, man.
It obviously didn't work, but for me watching the game, early on there were moments when it was working.
But in the
that
first,
is all I'm gonna say.
The beginning of the match is when we were the most overwhelmed by them, though. At the same time,
not really. It was only until the 30th minute. They didn't really create any chances before that. They had that Diagne offside goal. Things going on like that, but it wasn't really anything crazy.
that's a thing. That's certainly
where he swung and missed.
And plus the Onyekuru thing. Dude, you've got to give
their XG was 0.01 before the 30th minute. Ours was 0, but 0.01 is still not.
Again, but that's a statistic that's weighing on the statistical odds of a certain position resulting in a goal. It doesn't mean they weren't dominant though, and they weren't on the ball. They were
getting towards the box, but they weren't getting shots off. They weren't.
Yeah, but that's in a sense, that was the sort of scary part. It's they're circling your defense, and they seem to be getting into positions and playing with the confidence where it really felt like. Again, you can never say the goal is coming because it's a derby and you hope it's not, and anything can happen. But certainly, if a goal was coming to either side, it was definitely more likely coming to theirs. And they, in the build-up to the first goal, was when we'd started to reassert
That's when
ourselves
Miran
in
gave the
match.
ball away, right?
Well, and
No, that was like a minute or two before and stuff like that.
well, yeah, I think
But,
in the first 20 minutes of the match, I remember thinking this is not going to go well. And in the group chat, I was like, they're going to score. This is terrible. And then it seemed like we'd maybe settled into the match, which made their unjust goal all the more. And I mean, this is the other problem with saying this side was better than that side or whatever, and sort of prognosticating or sort of guessing things around bad decisions. Because the ref, again, like I think we were finding our way back into the match, and that tactic, as you were saying, was actually starting to, we were starting to connect the people up front with the midfield a little bit more efficiently. But then that very unjust goal unsettled the team again. I think Galatasaray looked like almost scoring immediately after their first goal again. Is that right? Do you remember?
they didn't. Well, I mean, after the first goal, no, that was their only chance for the half. Like,
But
well,
not like
registered
it wasn't
chance.
a big chance, but like they
After
came towards
their
us and we
second
were
goal,
looking
they almost
clumsy.
scored again. But
As I recall, yeah, I mean it wasn't a clear-cut chance, but they kind of kept, their head was still in the game after they scored, and we were still, I think, very much in disarray. And I remember thinking, oh crap, we're out of this game now, because I think it's one of those mental things where we feel like we've been unjustly treated, and now we're playing against the referee as much as we are the other team, and yeah, that goal was really poorly timed, and the second one maybe even more so, because the second half we really started to assert ourselves, and then that goal clearly killed everything. So the timing of those things, and of course the precariousness of the goals themselves, is terrible. But I'm just gonna say I do think, if I'm trying to be rational and talking to a Galatasaray fan, they earned the game. They deserved the win. I really think. I didn't like the ref. The ref was terrible.
they did.
I thought they were the better side. I'm not gonna say that. Honestly, like even your advanced stats tell that story.
They tell that story, but if you subtract the goals where they walk through the team because we weren't playing, their expected goals was like almost the same as ours. It was slightly more, which doesn't really mean much. That gives you an extra 2 or 3% chance.
But just
including their when they
strengths.
waltzed through the team, then yeah, they deserve the game. If you think
again,
when they
no.
waltz through the team, that is legitimate.
But we're not a team
Then they
that's
deserve
like, we're not a scrappy team this year. Like the strength that we've had lately has been in the kind of like individual talent we have, and the kind of emotional, like the desire to win at the end, especially on the part of certain players. And so I don't think we're the type of team that's gonna like get in the trenches and like fight out a 1-0 win against a rival this year, honestly.
All I'm gonna say, in the first 20 minutes, the two positions is Atiba when he wins the ball in the box and he can't get it, and then Lenz's yellow card, because Lenz was running beyond the center back and he was going into space, and then Marcal blocked him off, and then Lenz got a yellow card. In that scenario, if let's say Lenz is not blocked off, he's in space. Or it's a yellow card for Marcal, but of course Lenz gets the yellow card with nothing happens. There was a couple moments where things could have gone our way.
I mean, look, Belhanda could have gotten the first yellow card and then been out of the game.
Yeah, for whatever reason it didn't go our way. There was a time when I think before their first goal, when Dorukan was actually going to run around Marcal on near the end line, and Marcal stuck his calf into his waist, and then the referee said no foul. There was a couple moments before that bizarre throwing that things weren't really going our way, and if we just made it to halftime and regrouped like we did, even though it was 1-0, we regroup at 0-0, and then that second throw-in goal doesn't happen. I do not see the game going the same way where we just there's nothing going on, because the players lost their belief. It is hard to play. I can tell you when you're playing in a game and it feels like the referee is just being awful, doesn't want you to win. It is not easier to play. It's hard, and it's a high pressure situation away from home. The players were clearly nervous because Lajic was slipping around. He was falling in the first half. I've never seen him play like that. They needed to get to the halftime, was kind of like Liverpool today, where they got there 1-0. Us would have been 0-0, same thing. And then they regrouped and they scored boom, boom, boom, boom. Because that first half, Liverpool should have conceded 4. It should have been 4-1 Barcelona in that first half. They made it to halftime and they scored 3 more. If we make it at 0-0, which we should have, there's a strong chance. Maybe we still lose the game. I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller.
Look, the only place we disagree is I would just disagree that we should have made it to the half at 0-0. Because, like, in the same way that we should, the ref should have made a call or something, like, Belhanda should have gotten a card. Like, the reality is that it didn't happen that way. And if you just look at the play of the two sides, I still really think, let's say, it was dominant.
Other than the goal they scored, they had one chance.
But I'm just talking about the general flow of the game and the way they were playing versus the way we were playing. We were playing like a scared, like a deer in headlights for much of that.
Chelsea won the Champions League not playing at all.
Yeah, but you're talking about exceptions. These are
Conceding
anecdotal.
penalties.
You're making anecdotal exceptions to the rule, right? But like the general, right? That's like one team in the history of football, whereas like 95% of them are playing well and win the Champions League. Like at the end of the day, you can't hope to be that exception that like scrapes through despite not deserving to win a match. Like we should have. We didn't come into the match playing with the right tactic. We didn't come in with the right mentality, and we even if if it was okay on paper, like we clearly didn't play well in the first half.
The issue this year is the same as last year, is that we're not consistent enough this season, so we put all our eggs in the last basket, and we needed a good performance, and we got unlucky, pretty unlucky, and there was too much pressure on one game, and there was seasons. I think, 2000, when Mustafa Denizli won the title, where we lost derbies, but we played well in the other games, so it didn't matter. This season, we played awful in the first half of the season. Same thing as last year. And then it comes to that Gala game in the Turk Telekom Arena, and we had to win. The ball doesn't fall our way, and we lose. So for a singular game, we were unlucky.
I would rather lose the derbies the way we did with Slaven Bilic than the way we did this last weekend. In that, with Bilic, you felt like we were going out there and playing our way and giving it our all.
Well, we
and
never
like,
won.
Usually,
ever.
There was like
Ever.
always ref. Do you remember the match where he was crying because of the ref?
I don't remember. I just remember when Demba Ba got NFL tackled.
I mean, I think with a foreign coach, refs tend to be even more difficult because they know they can get less of a fight, maybe through lack of communication or whatever. But we've perennially been screwed over in derbies, and you've always got to factor in the odds that that's going to happen. Like
Of the coaches we watched, who's won the most derbies in the past whatever years? Bilic wasn't winning derbies.
I'm older than you, man. I could
Ayababa
probably say
won the
Lucescu.
one derby. I don't know. Remember Lucescu? It was so long ago.
I'm
But
old,
we got
saying.
used during when we had that the Super League playoffs. We lost almost every single game. Those were all derbies. With Carvajal, with Typhoon, we generally lost or tied every single derby.
I'm gonna play the
coach.
Kaan's advocate and say that Şenol Güneş didn't win the derby there. It was Mario Gomez.
Okay, Mario Gomez. But we won the first Gala game this season. We blew the 2 Fenerbahce games. But
Which, dude,
all in all,
we did not just blow the Fener game. That's historic. Like, this is the
historic,
worst Fener side
catastrophic.
in not just my lifetime, but probably anyone we know's lifetime. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
and for the rest of our lives, right? Like, I don't think we'll ever see a Fener side this bad and a match blown, especially that second one.
But
as
all I'm going
poorly.
to say, Chanel has a decent track record in the derbies. Not as good as we would like, but it is decent.
But here's
And
Evran. You're in viewing Şenol Güneş, you're not looking at the big picture, right? He inherited so much more than any coach in your lifetime. As a sentient adult viewing Beşiktaş, right? Like, of all the coaches you've seen, like, you've pretty much seen the foundation come into effect, and then Şenol Güneş come in with, again, like in your lifetime, unarguably the most talented Beşiktaş sides probably in the history of Beşiktaş, honestly, like player by player on paper. Because I remember even like at the beginning of this, like at the end of last season, at the beginning of this season, we were looking at the guys on paper, and like we were probably the best team in Turkey, right?
yeah,
And so you can't not
When
account.
we used to have the Portuguese gang,
Phil
we had the
Jackson,
best team
right?
on
Phil
paper
Jackson
too.
always had Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Kobe Bryant. So it's very hard to say he's definitely the best coach ever because he's never coached a team that wasn't super talented. In the same way that, like, when you look at Şenol Güneş, relative, and not in the history of football or even Turkish football, but specifically relative to the other coaches who you're talking about in the last, 10 years of Beşiktaş's history, Şenol Güneş very clearly inherited the most talented Beşiktaş side among that group. You can't argue that.
All I'm gonna say is that team, I think it was Tayfur or Carlos. When you used to have Quaresma in his prime, you have
Yeah, you talk about the
Simão, who's
well,
still at a decent age.
But you know what that
you
is.
have Manuel Fernandes in his prime. We played awful.
But can you imagine, like, perhaps
We played awful.
But any team.
We don't have anyone like that right now. That's a 26-year-old big name. Maybe Laic, maybe.
Hey, you're
but
talking
Laic
about,
is not this.
Come on, with the Gomez era and everything. I mean, dude, and you're not thinking, because even then, like, the top 4 guys on the team were, like, very good players, but the rest, like the other, 6, 7 guys were not. Were not of the quality of this group. Even
We
this
still
group.
had some good players, and we were awful.
Serdar
We were getting
Kurtuluş.
4th place.
Kurtuluş. Our central defenders were a mess. Come on, man. Like, it's apples and
Sivok
oranges.
was a mess. Ernst, we had
Sivok never
Ernst,
had,
Quaresma,
never,
Guti,
never.
Shimao,
Sivok never had a
Fernandes.
partner.
Those are fantastic plays.
Sivok never had a partner, and
we sucked.
And Sivok was
sucked.
always prone to, like, 5 to 10 minute brain farts where he would literally, like, just forget where he was, and, like, there would be these moments where in 10 minutes they'd score 2 goals or 3 goals, and that was always on Sivok's what. To be fair, he's probably one of my 3 favorite central defenders of all time, but also he never was given a proper partner alongside him. He always had the glass man Zahn or crazy Toteman or whatever, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he never got even, like, Domagoj Vida has been given more respect as far as, like, partners, I would say, honestly. Like, I'm not saying Şenol Güneş is not someone who deserves a lot of respect among the Beşiktaş fan base. He's won 2 titles. But, like, I also think we can't not see the things he's doing wrong when he's doing them. And, like, these last 2 seasons have been more bad than good from him.
All I'm gonna say is back to what we're saying. Historically, even when you're saying that Beşiktaş team wasn't good, if you want me to read to you the Gallup team we lost to 2-0, Engin Baytar, Necati Ateş, Albert Riera in midfield, Hakan Balta. That's not a great team.
Hey, but Hakan Balta was a historic player.
They subbed on Aydın Yılmaz, Ceyhun Gülselam, and Sabri
Yo,
Sarıoğlu.
you're picking out the worst guys.
But those guys all played.
But you could pick out the worst guys.
We were still better.
Pick out the worst
And
guys.
we lost 2-0.
No, look,
Well,
I'm
our
not
11
saying.
was Rushdu,
I'm not gonna say Carlos Carvalho.
Gilbert, Toraman, Sivok.
Look.
That's not a bad team. We were better than them and we still lost.
but
That's how it's always been.
Evran,
We were better and we lose.
But you're doing the anecdotal thing again. I'm not saying Carlos Carvalho was a better coach than Şenol Güneş. I'm just saying Şenol Güneş is fallible. He's made enough mistakes in these last 2 seasons that, honestly, like, he's put shade on his own legacy by how he's managed.
Not in the derby games, though. Not in the derby games. He put shade in his own legacy, mostly just because we lose to Kasımpaşa 4-1.
Yeah, that's true.
Lose
Those
at home to
terrible first
Antalya, we
halves.
lose at
But
home to Sivas,
let's not give him a pass.
cetera,
Let's
et
not
cetera.
that 3-goal second half against Fenerbahce this year. You can't give him a pass. You can't give him a pass on the as much as, like, the good results you want to pat him on the back. You've also got to recognize the bad ones, and some of them have been historically bad.
That was
the worst derby result, I think, in our lives.
Yeah, but we're saying a 3-3 result is worse than when we lost 3-0.
Against a relegation-bound Fener that's, like, in complete disarray and chaos.
I heard a lot, but I mean, it's still not as bad as when you're getting smoked.
Obviously, in fact, the loss here against Galatasaray is worse because the stakes are higher and the the results are worse for where it leaves us. But, dude, I mean, look, Şenol Güneş is gone anyway, right? This is it. He's got 2 more matches. His legacy is going to be intact insofar as he's won 2 titles for us. But, like, I don't want it to, because, like, I'm not saying he needs an asterisk in the history books or anything, but it does need to be said that he was positioned much better than any other coach, barring maybe Carlos Carvalhal. And I'm still not going to make that argument, honestly, because, like, that you know very well. It's like last season. On paper, we had the most talented team in Turkey, but like on paper, that's talking about guys like Ryan Babel and even Anderson Toliska, who's like a phenomenal player, but like maybe not the best team player, right? So those guys were exceptional. Almeida, Simao, Quaresma.
I wouldn't call Almeida exceptional, but
whatever. I mean, for where we were at the time and for what it represented. But, again, like you can't just say plugging guys in is going to always result in something positive anyway, especially immediately, And that's the thing about Turkey, too, is you very rarely have the opportunity to see if something can work long term and if guys can settle into positions or whatever. Because if you have terrible, even half a season, you're probably out of here as a coach, as a player, whatever. So, I don't know. For me, that's a weird team to even be thinking about the Carvalhal one, but it needs to be noted. Šenogorec has been given talent to do the things that he's done, and probably he's been given the talent to do more than he's done, if we're going to be real. So you can't give him a pass, and this is one of those.
I'm
matches.
not giving it a pass. I'm giving a pass on this game, not the whole season. It was this particular game. So I don't think we did not lose the season in this game. This game was not his fault. That is all I'm going to say. The games where we lost, where we almost got knocked out by Linz, we lost 3-4 home games this year, or 2 home games, which we shouldn't be losing any home games. Things like that. We're tying Erzurum. Things like that. Yeah, you can say it's his fault. But this one game, dude, I don't think it's fair that it was his issue.
I think you're giving too much credit to the idea of the tactic he put in, and not enough thought to this team's ability to implement that idea, and B, what we saw. Like, even if in some vacuum they could be, even if in some vacuum they could be capable of playing that way, it's weird to make it happen. Like if they had a couple games where they were trying it out, like this is the first time he was going for it. So it's asking a lot. It's taking a huge risk, and like a negative risk, because you're taking a huge risk to play negative football. Before.
Maybe you haven't noticed as much because he still did an attacking tactic where he's done something completely new and it's worked.
But here you're innovating towards negative football, towards anti-football. So it's not like, wow, what an exciting inspiration this is. It's like,
does it really make a difference though? If you make an exciting change or a non-exciting change, it's still a change.
Well, just again, I mean,
and
for me, given who we've been
to
coming into this match, but given the momentum we had coming into this match, I think you'd want to psychologically give them that edge of being like, get out there and like keep that run of energy.
But we have not played this whole year. Even when we were winning, we were not playing. We were scoring, not playing. So is it reasonable to expect that now we're going to be able to play?
But like I said, or like you've said, individuals have been playing. So it makes zero sense to take those individuals away from the roles where they've been playing well. At least you can agree there. Whatever. All right, it's fine. We can agree to disagree. But so for you then, who's the highlight? Who's your man of the match?
Man of the match. It's really hard to give it to anybody, if we're gonna be honest. I think Lenz was better than usual, but I can't say he was good at all. He was just better. This is one of the hardest questions I've ever been asked.
Yeah.
Who was good? I can't say Tiba because honestly, on the throw-ins, he was definitely at fault because he was one of the guys walking and yelling at the ref.
Yeah.
So if he fouled someone right away and then yelled at the ref, let's say, because he had a chance to do that.
Yeah.
I feel like Gekon was probably playing the best, but then he got hurt.
Yeah,
So I can't
that's
really.
probably fair.
I guess that'd be my highlight. A very, very low highlight.
I'm gonna go with Karius. I think the saves he made, there were 3 good saves, 1 really good save, maybe 2 actually, because in the second half he had that diving save too on the low shot, and both of them kept us in the match at the very least, right? If we go down another goal, there's really nothing to even play for, and like neither goal you could really put on him at all, I don't think. So, in fact, on the second one, he even saved the first shot, and then sadly not the second. But you know, you can only do so much. So I guess I'd give it to Karius again. But like, yeah, who cares, man? Who cares about the highlights?
Yeah.
What about the low light, man?
Low light. I mean, there's only like there's a few main candidates. Namely on that left side of the field. Maybe Nejip or John Air would probably be the 2 guys competing for low light. I'm not gonna give Nejip because I don't think it's his fault that he's a bad player.
Yeah, at this point, it's the fool who puts.
I'm gonna give it to John Air just because, especially after that second goal, he just kind of looked a little lazy, and it's kind of hard to say he was awful, but there was a reason he was subbed off. One of the first ones subbed off, if you're not the first one. So
for sure, yeah. And I'm gonna give it to Durakan. Actually, I think Durakan really underwhelmed me in that match. Because
he had 6 accurate passes the whole game, which is a little.
That's not good, right? And if anyone was gonna be, for me, making a bad idea work tactically, it was gonna be him, because he was in a position where he could actually link, the 2 phases of the team, and he was not of a mind to do that, and he was sort of clumsy. I will say this: he's young. This is the biggest match of his career. That was so far,
probably
right. This is his first season with Beşiktaş, and this was certainly the most momentous game of this season, barring maybe one of those Europa League matches. But we were such heavy favorites. We were such heavy favorites against those teams.
I'm not sure how.
Yeah, exactly. And he knows what it means for Beşiktaş to play Galatasaray in a decisive derby. So, at least the concept of it. So, this was his first real test, and that goes for guys like Ljajic and I guess even Kagawa, although obviously he's played in huge matches in his career. I mean, I hate to give it to that guy, given that context, but he really was poor, and he of all people could have been the one to sort of salvage this thing tactically by linking those 2 phases of the offense, or of the midfield and the offense, the attack, but it was lacking, and for some reason that was the role he was given. He was put in the number 10 slot, so we needed more of him. We definitely needed more of him there. He had 1 attempt at goal that was blocked by a defender on a long shot from outside that I think he could have maybe tried to pass it, because we had some momentum there. And, I mean, all around was just sloppy. Yeah, man. What else is there to say about this match?
Not a lot. I think we've talked more than we expected, but it's just not good. Do better next time, please.
Yeah, that we could definitely say.
This is no longer in our own hands. We have nothing in our own hands. We're just only thing we have in our own hands is 3rd place. So everything else we need a favor. So.
Yeah, and so again, everyone, stay tuned. Monday, 1 p.m., May 13th, Beşiktaş is hosting Alanyaspor. Every game is still big in theory, at the very least, to make sure we cling on to that 3rd spot and don't have any trouble with the Europa League. Because these days, we don't even know if we can get to the Europa League qualifiers, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I'd rather not play that second round.
But I think
Linz or whatever.
But it's honestly, it's a little bit dark, pessimistic even, to say we're out of the running for that second position, given
we're because it's only one if one team is they have to drop points. Someone has to drop points against each other, and if they make a mistake in one of their 2 games, it's feasible.
Exactly.
But it's not something I would as I said before, bet the house on.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that. But definitely still something to play for. Still every reason to hope we score lots of goals for the goal differential and all that kind of thing. So stay tuned. Last thing, hashtag Shinji watch. So Shinji Kagawa played in this match, but not a whole lot. He got about 23 minutes at the end. He was given an unjust yellow card by the standard of this match, at the very least, since Belhanda didn't get anything. But anyway, what do you think about his play in this match?
He wasn't bad, but there wasn't really enough that he could have done just the way when he came in, the game was kind of already over. He had a couple nice passes. Nothing really to say bad about it. Nothing to really is what you expect is Kagawa. Is he not going to have good passes? But he didn't really he didn't change the game negatively, but he didn't really nothing
too positive.
There wasn't really much he could do. Yeah.
And the one perhaps newsworthy thing I alluded to earlier, but he did make a sort of veiled complaint in the media about not playing much and kind of really wishing he could have had more of a chance to impact the match. That's not a good look. And I know Shinol Gunesh is not going to be here next season. But many people...
Kagawa might not either.
Well, apparently, and that's what I was getting at, is many people would hope that Kagawa might be here next year. And Shinol Gunesh might be harming the chances of that, unfortunately. But
maybe it's a tactic that he doesn't play well, so he can reduce his buyout clause.
We're trying to make sure that he stays under the radar.
They're playing checkers, we're playing chess. What can I say?
I hope they convey that to him somehow. But yeah, man, Shinji Kagawa. I hope that you'll get some action. I think with less to play for, in theory, maybe there's more motivation to get him out there as much as they can. With just 3 matches remaining, or 2 matches remaining. 2 matches or 3? 3, with just 3 matches remaining.
Yeah. There's 9 points left, so.
With just 3 matches remaining. So that's a little fix, by the way. Earlier, I think I said there were 2 matches ago, so consider that corrected. But yeah, so that's it for Shinji Watch. Of course, stay tuned for more. Hopefully we'll get something going there. Next match versus Alanya. Yeah, Evran, say something to take us out.
I was happy that it wasn't Quaresma's fault. That's
there you go.
That's my main positive.
There's a closing sentiment. If anything, we can take solace in that, I guess. So as always, follow us on Twitter @Eagles_podcast. Follow Evran @FanOfBJK. Follow me @Sir_Wrights_a lot. Follow the mothership, Beşiktaş International, @Beşiktaş_INT. Transfer season is coming up, so there will be a lot more reason to stay tuned online for the latest. And of course, Beşiktaş International is run by a team of goons 24/7 around the clock, updating you with all the latest. So yes, stay tuned. Pretty much finished. So taking us out, Evran.
After this theme song, we have a wonderful After the Beep from our own Kaan Bayezid. He's a big fan of going on long rants, so I'm sure you guys will enjoy it.
As you all know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So stay tuned after the theme song. I know you always want to hear the whole thing anyway because it's so good, but yeah, especially this week because we're back to our After the Beep format. Thanks once again, Evran, for coming in, talking Beşiktaş, and as always, go Beşiktaş!
I Americanized the last
I heard that.
Yeah, well, it's okay. No to get that part of the podcast.
That's what he gets for not being here.
Yeah.
All right, man.
I went a little longer than I expected.
Way longer.
Yeah,
Yeah, not
your fault. Your fault for not agreeing.
that was beautiful to do. It's not good.
Hey everyone, I think we can officially say our season is over. 3 matches from the end of the season. It lasted longer than I think any of us could have imagined back in December. Heck, even back in March. Um, we had a great 6 match run. Definitely some luck was involved here and there. Konya last minute, Sivas last minute, but also not just luck, but class from individuals, class from guys like Burak Yilmaz, class from guys like Adem Laic, class from a guy like Shinji Kagawa. But at the end of the day, I think the conclusion needs to be that the only reason we were in the position we were in at the beginning of today, heading into match day 31 against Galatasaray, I think the conclusion needs to be that we were at the dance purely and simply due to individual quality of players, not due to the merits of a coach that has been failing us for the last 2 seasons. And I think that once again was made painfully obvious today. We're hot. We're on a 6 match winning streak. We're the team to beat in the league, and you go into this match starting like scared little mice. You start a midfield with Necip, Atiba, and Dorukhan. You're starting Necip, who hasn't started a single match in those 6 match winning streak, and suddenly he's a starter in your team. Why? Because he gets his third 300 official appearance for the club. It's but I digress. It's this is not about Najib. It's about the mentality, and the mentality that we showed, or rather, the coach showed heading into this match is a small club mentality. If you go into Turk Telecom Arena or whatever you want to call the stadium, Ali Sami and whatever, doesn't matter. If you go into that stadium and you expect you have to win the league, you have to win to be champions, then you don't go into that match like any Anatolian team playing on the counter, hoping, praying that you get to half time with a 0-0 draw and then try and get lucky on the counter, because that is exactly what Şenol Güneş did. Small club mentality. There's a reason why Galatasaray have been unbeaten for 2 full seasons almost. This season is almost at an end. They didn't lose a single home match last season in the league. They didn't lose a single home match this season in the league. There's the last team to beat them there. Guess who that was? That was Beşiktaş. And you know what the difference was with that Beşiktaş and this Beşiktaş? That Beşiktaş knew that they had to go and win that match, because back then we were enthralled in the title race with Başakşehir, and we went in there with the attitude of wanting to win that match. Same thing the year before, but this time Şenol Güneş went in there with a small club mentality, with a small team mentality, just trying to cement the midfield, which is never gonna work. You have to play to your strengths. That's the art of football, playing to your strengths. Look, when you're Konyaspor and you play like this, that's fine because you're playing to your strengths. Beşiktaş's strengths are not in playing as a little bitch team, because that's what you're doing. And Şenol completely failed today tactically. And yes, I know the referee was a disaster. Now I do think that actually the ball did go out off of Caner. I'm not 100% sure. It's difficult to tell really, but that's one thing. But that's in like minute 45, but the previous 45 minutes, every single time a Galatasaray player went down, it's a fall. Every single time one of our players went down, it's play on. And that was like, sometimes we say that and we exaggerate a little bit, but it was like, that was literally the case in this match, and that's frustrating. And you know what, the first goal, okay, you can complain about that, but the second goal, to me, that's something I don't think I've seen very often in football. I can't recall it really, where you're subbing, and as your player is coming on the pitch, the referee just says play on, and basically you're putting on a right back, and the other team is allowed to attack while that player is literally stepping on the pitch. That to me, that's a little beyond me. But again, I'm not going to complain about it, because the problem, that's all part of the puzzle in why we lost. But the fundamental reason why we lost is because we went into this match not believing in ourselves. We adjusted to the opponent. And I know we've been saying on the podcast for months that we should adjust our game plan. Yes, we should, but you should respect your opponent, but you should also play to your strengths. And we did not play to our strengths today. We didn't have a single grain of creativity in that midfield today. So what's your plan? You're hoping to smash them on the counter. Okay, fine. Who's gonna send those balls to the wings? Who's gonna feed Burak? Who's gonna feed Lens? Who's gonna feed Leitch the balls when nobody in midfield can play a forward pass? And the fact that Najib is on the pitch for 90 plus minutes, you're 1-0 down at halftime, and Najib still finishes that match. Dorukhan ends up coming off. Caner ends up coming off. I mean, Caner is a player that can, against Kayseri, for example, even if Caner isn't having his best match, he still got us a point there with his wayward cross, basically. But why is a guy like Najib staying on the pitch? And if you look at the second half, okay, fine, we concede that goal, but at least in that second half, we were trying to play football, and we made it difficult for them. Obviously, it's a different match. They scored. They're protecting their 1-0 advantage. If you start that way, it's never going to be the same as if you're 1-0 behind or 2-0 behind. But still, at least, if we went into this match going all out for the win, then you can end the match with your head held high, and with the idea of we did everything we could. And that's a big disappointment today for me. Not the fact that we lost, because honestly I didn't have much faith in us pulling off a victory here, simply because I knew that Channel was gonna fuck it up. Because again, the reason we are in the position we are in now has nothing to do with Channel Gunesh. He has changed absolutely nothing in the second half of the season. He continues to make the same mistakes. The only changes he has made are forced changes. He has been forced to drop Ricardo Quaresma from the team, first due to suspension, and after that due to injury. That is not a decision he himself made. He is still very reluctant to start Kagawa. It took him 75 minutes today to put Shinji Kagawa on the pitch. We were desperately needing creativity, and it took him 75 minutes to put him on. He's still the same old stubborn Laz. And for those of you who know, and I know there's a lot of people listening to the podcast who are not very familiar with Turkish slang and Turkish in general. There's a lot of people who don't speak Turkish who listen to the podcast, but basically, it's Laz is a term that you refer to people from Trabzon, from the Black Sea region, and he's just such a stubborn mule, and yeah. I'm glad the season is almost over. It would have been such a nice swan song, and you know what? In a way, it would have been great if we could have finished the season with one last hurrah for Şenol Güneş, because he's done so much for the club, but it's such a shame how he's ruined his own legacy in these last two seasons. It's really a shame, because he did great things, but that's one of those things. Some people are clinching onto that too long, and I think that's also a token of small team, small club mentality. The fact that a certain section of our fans have this mentality of, well, we should be forever grateful to Şenol Güneş. Yes, we should for those 2 titles, sure. But that does not mean we need to turn a blind eye to his constant failures in the last 2 seasons. And he should have left months ago. I will, whether we would have won or lost today, that my opinion would not have changed. Next season, I hope we can start with a new leaf. We have a good basis of a team. I think this team could have easily won the title this season. You have to keep in mind we have 33 points now out of a possible 42, but it could have been more because we could have beaten Fenerbahce. We could have won. We could have at least gotten a point here tonight. I mean, if you don't go into this match with this wrong mentality, who knows? But we have a decent second half of the season, an acceptable amount of points. There's still 3 matches to go, still a potential 9 points to go. I mean, if we finish the second half of the season with 42 points or even with 39 points, let's say we lose in Trabzon, but we win the remaining 2 matches, 39 points is still really good. Problem is in the first half of the season, we got 26, which is absolutely appalling. That's barely above that is below the bare minimum. I think the bare minimum for someone who aspires to be a champion needs to be 32 points or something like that, and it's way below that. So we could have easily won the title this season. We could have easily won the title last season, but we had poor first halves of the season. And Şenol Güneş, that's maybe last season it was in part due to the fact that some players were focusing on the Champions League too much. But this season, for me, it's really so much on him for his reluctance to make changes and all that. And yes, sure, had we had Burak Yilmaz as the start of the season, that would have made a big difference too. But come on, we had Burak Yilmaz now. What's the excuse now for playing the way we did today, for starting the way we did? And yes, again, you can blame referees, but that doesn't change the fact that we played with a small team mentality, that we started this match as scared little mice, and that a man called Necip Uysal wore our captain armband today, played 90 minutes. I don't think he won a single freaking duel today. The only thing he did was lose the ball or commit a foul. And he couldn't play a single decent pass forward. When he came into the offensive third, he lost the ball every single time to Belhanda, an offensive player. So he defended. He had an easy time defending on Necip. And the only good thing he did all game was win. He had one really good tackle today, where he won the ball in midfield, and we could have had a promising counter, but the referee penalized him for a foul. And that was too bad, because that could have been an interesting counterattack for us. But apart from that one good tackle, he did nothing right. And that's somebody that Şenol Güneş in the match of the year, because kid yourselves not, this match could have made our season. This match could have made everything, so to speak, not everything, but this match could have righted so many wrongs of this season already. Had we won this, I am confident we would have actually won the title. Because Başakşehir are crumbling, and we would have been 1 point back, and they would still have to play Galatasaray, they still have to play Ankaragücü, and they still have to play Alanyaspor. I'm sure they would have dropped at least 2 more points, and we could have won, with that morale boost, we could have gone and won 3 more matches. So today, you know, like I said before, you're on a 6-match winning streak without Necip. Necip had no role in that 6-match winning streak. I think he played like 15 minutes, and then, you know, he came on as a sub, got injured, and went back off at halftime. And he starts this match as your captain, and there was no reason for it. What was there? Everyone who played the last match was available. Every single one. Nobody was injured or suspended. So why does Necip start? Why? It's the question we've been asking ourselves for the last 2 seasons with many decisions that Şenol Güneş has made. But fortunately, we won't have to ask ourselves for too long anymore. 3 more matches, and he walks off into the sunset. If only he'd done it a year later. Peace.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.